Do you know that the Guiding Star Project has a series of 7 healthcare centers across the United States where we empower women with healthcare that is in line with their natural design? In a series of podcasts, we are going to be showcasing each of our centers by interviewing their executive directors. And today, on the podcast, we have the beautiful Amy Dall from Guiding Star Cedar Valley. That's what's coming up today on the Fearless Future podcast. Welcome to the Fearless Future podcast, where your hosts, Lisa Canning and Leah Jacobson, will explore what the world would look like if women didn't fear pregnancy. Through education, community, and healthcare solutions, Guiding Star Project strives to make this a reality at our physical centers across the United States. Join us. I have been wanting to showcase our centers in this way for a really long time. We have centers across the United States, and they all have a unique flavor, a unique community, and of course, unique people who serve in their teams as well as at the helm. One thing that Guiding Star Centers, well, many things they have in common, but what makes a Guiding Star Center is a commitment to our 4 core services. And so we're going to unpack what those are, what it looks like at each of our centers, starting today with Guiding Star Cedar Valley. So without further delay, welcome to the Fearless Future podcast, Amy Dall. Amy, hello.
Hello, good morning.
I am so excited to have you on the podcast. You and I came into this organization around the same time. So we were both kind of new kids on the block, and we both had to learn real quick all the things. So for anyone who might not know you and your work, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Amy Dall. I'm the executive director at Guiding Star Cedar Valley. We are located in Waterloo, Iowa, and we actually are just blessed to be able to office or partner with Fiat Family Medicine, which is Dr. Pranger and his team. And so it just allows us to have a really unique situation to be able to serve clients directly. And be able to have access to some clients that may not walk through our doors if we were in a center, in a standalone center by ourselves. So
Yeah.
It's been a beautiful partnership with Dr. Pranger and Fiat Family Medicine.
An amazing service to the community that we have the Guiding Star services alongside of a full medical practice. So share with us a little bit of the history, if you would, of Guiding Star Cedar Valley, and then I want to get into your personal story. But let's talk a little bit about, how did Guiding Star get founded?
Okay. So I have been with Guiding Star since last September, which would be 2023. And Guiding Star Cedar Valley was founded in 2016 by Jamie Rathjen. And she was a student at the time, I believe, at UNI. And had been learning about women's health and starting to learn about hormones and all of these things that we are not taught or is not talked about. We're not told when we go to the doctor and we're receiving healthcare. And I remember her telling me a little bit of her story. And forgive me, Jamie, if you hear this and I'm not telling it exactly perfectly. But she said she just laid in bed at night awake, just kind of stewing and ruminating over this information and just feeling so called that it needed to be shared. And so she talked to Dr. Pranger. She reached out and just wanting to find a doctor who would be able to follow a holistic approach, and had a conversation with him and said, these are some of the things that I would love to do, that I would love to offer women, knowing that she needed a partner, probably with somebody who was in the medical field. And he said, yeah, that's great. I would love to do that. And she goes, will you stop prescribing birth control pills? And he said, no. And she goes, okay, I'll see you later. And she said for her, she was very, to know Jamie now, she's not timid, she's not shy, but she said back then I was. And I said, and she says, for me to be that bold about it, wasn't probably coming from her. And I can share this story because I think they both have shared this publicly. But Dr. Pranger, he's a Catholic physician and had several children. And his wife had been asking him for some time to stop prescribing birth control pills. And it was kind of a point of contention. And he says it. He goes, I was so frustrated when you asked me that. And he just took it to prayer. And a few days later, he called her back. And Jamie did not have his phone number. She didn't know who was calling her. But he called her back and he said, I'll do it. And so, that partnership was born. And then, so Jamie was just really looking for a way to make this happen. And she, and I don't know the exact details to this, but she came upon Leah Jacobson's plan for our Guiding Star. And I guess I recount it as you have two dreams that collided, came together, and Guiding Star Cedar Valley was born. And so Jamie was the first executive director, the only employee for a period of time. I think they tell me that their first client didn't walk through the door until 2018. And at that time, we have one of our staff members who's leaving us soon. Her name's Grace Schmadeke. She was the first employee, has been there for 7 years, and has done all of the things for Guiding Star Cedar Valley. And my predecessor was Sarah Capriva. She came on board with Jamie, and she did some amazing, tremendous things. These women, it's just each step of the way, I just feel like the Lord has provided for Guiding Star Cedar Valley. And we all bring something very different to the table as executive directors. But I think we all firmly believe and have that trust that we have just all been placed in Guiding Star at the right time for each of us. So,
Oh my goodness. And what a perfect segue into your personal story, because you and I came into this organization at the same time. I was right like the summer, basically, of 2023. And I remember we both were like, yeah, we have a lot to like catch up on. Like, when's the luteal phase? Like, I still struggle with some of the, the memorization of the details. If I'm looking at a piece of paper with all the things around the medical side of our, fertility and how we walk with clients, I'm okay. But if you ask me to do it from memory, it's a struggle. But so it was just so, you are a delight. We met at our Newman retreat where we gather with all of our executive directors. And I remember, do you remember this story? We were staying in the same hotel.
yes.
I remember the first day getting there, and it was the day of setup. So I was up really early, and I was just thinking about, okay, what do I have to do? What do I need to prepare? What do we have to get? We had all these boxes of things that we were bringing as gifts. Anyway, so it was really early. And I remember seeing this young woman sitting there with her journal. There was no one else in the breakfast area. I had thousands of things on my mind. And this young woman was sitting there with a journal, like with a hoodie on, like all cozy, sitting there with a journal. And I just was like, I'm going to try to embody the peace of that woman. And then what was fun was that was Amy Dall. That was Amy Dall. I thought you were a college student sitting there with this journal, just like so happy. You had this peaceful, just complete sort of feeling about you. And that has, as I've gotten to know you better, that is something that you bring everywhere you go. You truly are such a peaceful presence. So share with us how you got into Guiding Star, because you have such an interesting story, and your professional background coming to Guiding Star is a really, really great story. So share with us what got you here.
So I just want to go back to that hotel moment with you, because I distinctly remember that moment of seeing you, and I was so curious about you. I was, and I am sometimes a bold person where I will just go up and talk to somebody, and I just did not feel like that was the time or the place. But I really was so curious about you. And then it was just so incredibly providential, I think, in so many ways, that when I got to the retreat, you were there. And I did not know who you were. And I just think that that's funny that our paths cross in that, in that small way. And the Lord was just showing me, he just reveals those things. But thank you for that. It was definitely a leap of faith And I do liken it to jumping off a cliff and not knowing what's at the bottom, but trusting that it's all going to be good. When I came to Guiding Star Cedar Valley, I talked about Sarah Capriva, my predecessor. She's the one that actually asked me to consider the executive director position. She had she was pregnant and was expecting her fourth child, I think, and she knew that she was going to step away, and she's like, "Would you consider?" And her and I had worked together, so I come from a retail background. I was a manager of a Subway at 19 years old. I did not go to college. I worked hard for all of the positions that I have had over the years. At least I believe that I have. I've given it as much as I possibly could. I've worked for some incredible companies, and they have taught me very well about customer service, about doing the right thing and going the extra mile and taking care of people. And I hope and pray that I embodied that really well. My previous job, where I encountered Sarah Capriva, I was actually when I first met her, I was the manager coordinator of an event center, which was also part of a much larger organization in a plaza. And I left that company as a director of hospitality. I was overseeing the event center, two restaurants, a market, and 7 independent living dining teams at the time. And so when she came to me and she said, "Would you be interested?" And I said, "I am not qualified. I have no medical background. Yes, I'm a woman." We were supporters, actually. My husband and I were supporting Guiding Star Cedar Valley. We had been invited to a gala a couple years previously, and just felt really called to support them. Had not utilized their services in any way, shape, or form. So God just, He tugs on our hearts and He places things in front of us when we don't realize the greater plan.
Mm.
And so she asked me that first time. I said, "Not qualified. Thank you so much." And she came back to me a few months later and she goes, "Would you pray about it?" And I had been praying for the Lord to bring something different into my life. I wanted to do something that was a little more intentional with my own faith life and my own faith journey. And so I applied, and I just waited. And my husband, the job that I had before, it just had a lot of great benefits, had a great salary. There were all the reasons to stay, all the reasons to stay. And people asked me, they're like, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "You know what? Both choices are good. Whatever comes, if I stay, if I go, if I'm offered the job at Guiding Star, I didn't even know at that time if I would be offered the job." I said, "Whatever happens, I trust in that." So I was offered the job, and my husband and I were spending the day together that day. We both had taken the day off, and he goes, "What are you going to do?" And I know that he was just really struggling with the benefits that we were going to give up, the pay that we were going to give up, and some things like that. And don't get me wrong, I am compensated well at Guiding Star Cedar Valley. It's just that when you're faced with those decisions and you have choices to make and you have changes to make too. And so I knew in my heart that I was ready to say yes, but I need my husband to be comfortable with that too. And he's probably listened to this. I don't know if I've told him this story, but when he started talking to me and saying things as if I was going to say yes, then I knew I had his approval. And so here I am.
Wow.
Why? Yeah.
So we have a core value here at headquarters of being joyfully sacrificial. And there's, I think, in the nonprofit world, like anyone listening to this who is in a fellow nonprofit, where you're employed by a nonprofit, I think you understand what I mean. Like there are sometimes just decisions that you are making, and that are fueled by potentially lack of resources, and you're sometimes having to make really, really, really big decisions. What have you learned about yourself in the process of being joyfully sacrificial, or uh, just being cognizant of being a good steward with your resources? What have you learned about yourself since becoming executive director?
Oh, I think just a lot of trust. And I said, as far as like not coming from a medical background, I recognize that I'm not the expert. And I think that sometimes when you have the role as executive director, you feel like you have to know all the answers or know how to do all of the things. And I don't. And I have to be humble enough to rely on the people that work with me. I have an incredible staff. I could sit down and tell you all of the amazing ways each one of my staff members contribute and how we together are able to do some of the things that we do. And trusting that the Lord will provide in ways that sometimes you don't always know a way forward. Definitely have had some of the most humbling moments of my life during this short time at Guiding Star. And but also to see the fruits of that trust, right? We had a grant that we had applied for. I've never written a grant ever. And so the state had this opportunity for us, and I diligently sat down, spent a couple days on it, had some staff members that were really supporting me, did some research, submitted it. It didn't make it in time. And so we were denied. And, I had a mentor per se, a professional mentor. She knew of the demise of that particular grant and how frustrated I was. And they did a second proposal. And she said, "Amy, you need to respond to this one." And I didn't even know. It went into my spam folder. So to just understand that sometimes things are just working against you and you have to keep striving and just keep pushing forward, right? So I tweaked it. I wrote it for a little bit more money than I had originally wrote it for. And we received the award. And it just in the moment of when you feel like things are not going the way that you want that to go, trust and keep pushing forward. And the reward was better, right? The reward was greater because I had the second time I submitted it, it was actually for significantly more money, and that's what we received. So,
Wow. Oh my goodness. There's this is something I've observed about you in real life, like when we've been together, as well as just in my interactions with you via email, via phone, via text. There's a groundedness to you. And I know, you're a woman of faith, so I know that's a large part of, where your groundedness comes from and this trust and this perseverance. But you also have a lot of experience persevering. Share with us. I'd love for you, if you're comfortable, to share with us. You have some personal experiences that have fueled your desire to help women understand their fertility, and I'd love for you to share that with us.
So when I see the things that we teach women and even young men with some of our curriculum, I don't think I can emphasize this enough that every woman, every child deserves to know what we know about our bodies, about our fertility, about our health, how beautiful it is that we menstruate, right? Fertility health. I tell one of our volunteers, Dave, he's so fired up about fertility health. And I'm like, it should be dining room table talk, right? These are things that we should talk about at dinner. It just should be that way. And this is why. I didn't know any of the things that I'm learning at Guiding Star. I should not be learning these things at 52 years of age. I should not. And I look back at my own story. My mother was a single mom, and she just thought she was doing all the right things. And she said to me, "When you want to be sexually active, you let me know and we'll get you on the birth control pill." And I tried it, and it was horrible. And I don't know what was in me that just was like, I'm not doing this to my body. It just didn't put me in a good place in a lot of ways, mentally, physically. And then I was on my own, and I was sexually active, and I became pregnant at 19 years old. And I just didn't want a child in this world to grow up the way that I had grown up, which wasn't good. And I chose abortion. And I look back now and I think nobody in my path told me that it was the wrong thing to do. No one told me what I was doing. All I heard from the world at that point in my life was that it's your choice. It's your right. It's legal, right? And so I made that choice fully thinking that I would never regret it. And a few years later, I met my husband, and pregnant with a beautiful baby girl who just had her own baby. Um, and then we had two more children. And, I lived my life, and I came to this awareness when I became Christian, when I entered into the Catholic faith, that what I had done was so incredibly wrong, so wrong. And I also recognized that I just had a lot of wounds from that decision and a lot of choices that I had made in my life. And when I sit in with our educators and with the team at Guiding Star, and one, they don't condemn me, they embrace me, which is really important because I went through a lot of self condemnation when I came to the realization of my choice. Um, but they embrace that and they love me anyway. And I think that that's probably the most incredible thing about Guiding Star is that when you don't love yourself, you have women that will support you and love you anyway. Um, when I found out about Guiding Star and just the things that they do, embracing women in their pregnancy, in their lactation services, and breastfeeding, and all of the ways. I mean, one of our counterparts, our partner's Alternatives Pregnancy Center in Waterloo, Megan, she's our executive director. She's amazing. And she talks about wraparound services a lot. And I just have to think about that. And I'm like, that's one of the things we talk about is embracing women. And it's because we wrap around them in all the ways that we possibly can. Do we do it perfectly? No. But do we strive every day to do it that way? Yes. Um, I truly believe if I had known all of the things that I had been learning at Guiding Star Cedar Valley, if I had known them when I was 9, when I had my first period, and all I had was somebody hand me some pads and say, "Here you go," and I was still in grade school. How do you even navigate that when nobody tells you or talks to you about those things? And to my mother's credit, she came from a generation where it was called the curse. They didn't talk about the period, right? It was something that was shameful or something that was just like behind closed doors. And that got passed on to my generation. And I know that there are some women out there that they have really been enlightened and they understand from a different perspective. But I think that there are a lot of women that are my age that is what happened to them, and that's what we passed on to our own daughters. And I want that to be different. It's different for my daughter, but we have a generation of young people out there that are so hungry for information and knowledge. And the advantage that they have is technology. So when you do a podcast or you post something on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram, all of those things, it's like we get to spread all of this beautiful information that we have at Guiding Star to so many different women who would not know if we weren't doing what we're doing.
Yeah. Oh, I love how you say that. Let's talk about menstruating at the dinner table. And I get the sentiment behind that. If we normalize it, we don't make this something shameful. We don't see it as a curse or something to be avoided at all costs. I love that. And thank you so much for sharing your story. It's such a tender story. I guess for anybody who might be listening who perhaps was in a similar situation to you, um, what would you say to give them some hope and encouragement?
Mm. A situation specifically as being a post-abortive woman.
Mhm.
I think that you really just need to seek some healing. And there are people out there and organizations out there that are available. They're not widely talked about. I think that to come forward and say I had an abortion, the whole world screams that you have every right. It's your choice to do that. But nobody talks about what happens after you make that choice. Nobody, and I shouldn't say nobody, because there are groups and organizations that do talk about these things. And to seek that, because there are people out there that are compassionate and caring and willing. And I've come statistically the number of abortions that happen in the United States every year, statistically, you can't be in a room full of women where many of them have made that choice. It's statistically impossible. And I think that the other thing I would say is it doesn't just affect the woman that made that choice, willingly or unwillingly made the choice or had that decision made for them. It affects the father of the baby. It affects the grandmothers, the aunts, the uncles. It is something that affects all of our communities, our society, um, and that there are people out there that want to help, that want to walk alongside you. I was able to go to a retreat that is really shaped and modeled after Rachel's Vineyard. And I had an opportunity to just speak with some of the people who facilitate these retreats. And I was just curious. I'm like, what is, what age are women coming to this? And you would be amazed at the women who are 60, 70, and 80 years old that are attending these retreats. Because it does take some time for your decision to settle in and you to come to that moment of clarity where, wow, I took a precious life. And that's hard to make that admittance out loud. Um, and I just feel like I've been called to a place where I need to state it for people. Um, I'm sure it probably feels like it's really comfortable for me to talk about, and to a certain degree it is because I have said it. Like the first time you say it out loud to people, it's hard, and it's still hard the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth time. And I'm not saying that it's not hard, but I just feel like we have to speak up for what's going on, and to give people the clarity of like this is the consequence, this is what you live with. Because I truly believe that when we recognize and admit that it's not a place that you want to go, and that when you have a place like Guiding Star Cedar Valley, that will, I mean, the things that we do are so simple sometimes, right? Our client care coordinator was with a couple, young couple. It was their first birth, and they were just scared to change a diaper. That's that seems almost like really, really would that be hard? But it is. It's hard, right? I I could go on and on with the stories. My daughter lives in Hawaii. I live in Iowa. Do you know that the ladies from Guiding Star Cedar Valley have been walking alongside my daughter via text messages, right? But they've been walking alongside her as representatives of Guiding Star Cedar Valley, walking alongside her with her journey in breastfeeding, all the questions postpartum, and just been loving her in a way that she's just not finding here in Hawaii. She had a beautiful state of the art birth center that she was in. She had lactation consultants for every nurse with CLC, every nurse. But she's still reaching out to Guiding Star Cedar Valley for some answers to her questions because we do that so well. We love people so well. And I want that for every woman. I want that because we think back to those first moments when I was a mother. I didn't do any of that well, and I had no one to support me because I did not have a good family unit. And it's like if I would have had Guiding Star Cedar Valley in my back pocket when I was a first-time mom, I can tell you right now things would have been so different for my children.
Mm. Let's talk about some of those outcomes. So when a woman has this type of wraparound support, education from as young as age 9, when she's first getting her period, and then through every single stage of her ability to gestate, to ovulate, to lactate. So, what are some of the outcomes? Like, give me some stories. Maybe you think of one story where a mom walked out totally different as a result of her care at Guiding Star Cedar Valley.
I think that I'm going to use breastfeeding as kind of an example because it was National Breastfeeding maybe it was International Breastfeeding Week. We're celebrating it for the whole month. We have a breastfeeding support group. We had 10 moms, I think, the other day, which was beautiful in our center. And the space that we used for that support group, it was full. It was full. And I know that Danielle, our client service coordinator, she was just so excited to see that. And Susan, who is our lactation specialist, they just love that. But what does that look like for our mom, right? And I can just tell you, speaking from the standpoint of my own daughter, that she had questions come up, and they were answering questions or providing her information that her own care team was not providing her. Just that, hey, your baby was a preterm, so he's probably going to get jaundiced. And that compares to what she received at her birthing center was just watch for jaundice. But Susan specifically said, he's preterm, he's going to get jaundice, just know that. And so when it happened, it wasn't a shock or a surprise. It was something that she felt more equipped, right, to deal with and to take the necessary steps to do what you need to do when you have a jaundice baby. When you have someone like Danielle, who's just like skin to skin as much as you can, and it's okay, and to reassure and to ask all those little questions that when you're a new mother, there's 1,001 things you're just like, oh, what about this? How about this? What do I do when this happens? And just to be able to reach out and say, hey, they're texting. There's a 5-hour time difference for people who don't understand time differences between Hawaii and Iowa. There's a 5-hour time difference between our locations, and those women are still like responding to her on a really regular basis and they've just established this trust with her, and she has with them. And I guess I'm grateful that we love people, even though it's my daughter. And I go, well, I'm a little prejudiced, right? Because it's my daughter. But I feel like we love everybody that well, and we try to. Did I answer your question, Lisa? I'm sorry. I feel like I'm.
I mean, what I'm hearing is first of all, customer service, and this is also probably coming from your experience, caring about customer service in your previous career. But then loving the person in front of you, and how many people, feel free if you're watching this live or respond to us, on Instagram, how many of us have had that experience where maybe the doctor's hand was on the doorknob and you felt kind of rushed out of an appointment? To have this kind of lengthier patient approach where maybe your appointment really is more than 5 or 10 minutes, where there's lots of space and time to unpack. I think this is one of the things that I find really wonderful about Guiding Star is that space and time to unpack is encouraged. And when you are a mother going through things, particularly for the very first time, you might not even have the confidence to vocalize some of your lack of confidence, or you might be your own past wounds might be motivating some of the way that you're acting, and it's hard to bring those things up, especially if you're not even aware that you have them yourself. So I just love that. I want to talk about the partnership between Fiat Family Medicine and Guiding Star Cedar Valley. Can you just paint for anyone who might not be familiar or who has never visited your center, what does that actually physically look like? So kind of paint that picture physically. How is it set up so that you've got access to both? And then what does it look like in terms of the patient? So if you're working with a woman who comes in with a challenging period, for example, what does that sort of pass off of care look like at Cedar Valley?
I hope I do this justice. So uniquely, we have a child watch area, right, that we really manage. Now, the Fiat family team, they might jump in once in a while and help out, but that's something that we take care of and provide volunteers or even a staff member to be in there so that women and men, so families can receive the health care and still have their children come along. That's recognized as one of the reasons why women don't receive health care or even counseling. We have a counselor on site too that we partner with. So when they walk into the space, there's childcare off to the left, and then they go into the waiting room, the doctor's offices. So our offices for Guiding Star are just adjacent to all of the patient care rooms. And Danielle is our client services coordinator. She's very present. She's just off to the side of the main receptionist for Fiat Family Medicine, and so they really work in tandem, I would say, with each other. That's really the best way to do that. And I think I only know the tip of the iceberg of all the things that Danielle's able to do for our clients. I sat in her chair while she went on vacation, and it was so good for me to be able to just get a bird's eye view of her day to day. So, Fiat Family Medicine, they receive patients and they're really in communication with our team. Hey, we have a new baby coming in today. We see babies' moms at different times of their pregnancy. And so we're just in contact with those nurses with Fiat, and Fiat will come and say, hey, this patient is ready. Typically, we know a lot of times when those appointments and those face to face client care moments are going to happen, but we don't always know. Sometimes doctor will come and find us and say, hey, I have this patient. She needs some information about natural family planning. Or we had a moment where we had a mom who received a fatal diagnosis during her ultrasound. And so we went and sat with that mom. We frequently sit with women who have miscarried and have infant loss, and so we walk along or just sit with them. And a lot of times, like you said, Lisa, you had kind of mentioned this, it's just giving that woman time and just to be present. And I think that all of us have been in medical settings where a doctor's on a schedule, right? He has so many patients that he needs to see. Nurses have things that they have to do. And sometimes what a woman really needs is just to be seen and to be heard.
Yeah. I can think of particular moments in my own journey and in friends of mine who've anecdotally told me where perhaps they've miscarried or perhaps they've gotten a diagnosis. You know, you're handed a pamphlet, and then it's like, okay, great, I've given you the pamphlet. Like now you go do the rest. And when you're in that moment of challenge, of overwhelm, particularly, and you're just looking at a pamphlet, you know, this was my personal experience, but also of many friends who have shared with me, nothing happens with the pamphlet. Or you might think you're going to do something, so you take it home, you put it in your purse, you put it on the fridge, but things come up, you get distracted, or perhaps it's just emotionally too difficult to follow through on that thing. But can you imagine? This is what's so beautiful about Guiding Star Cedar Valley and how it's physically set up. Imagine you get a diagnosis or you learn you've miscarried, and you literally can walk across the waiting room, like literally, from the doctor to somebody like the client care specialist, and then literally just be sat with a cup of tea even, you know, and just be able to process that emotion. And I think the other thing that I find really beautiful of what we do at our centers is the importance of community. So let's talk a little bit about how you foster community among people who come in for services at Guiding Star Cedar Valley.
So we have, I just feel like we do a lot of things and a lot of different things. We have community classes that we offer. And so just some education or child infant CPR, classes on Creighton, intro to Creighton. We do perimenopause, menopause class, how to do baby wearing. I would say the breastfeeding support group has just been beautiful for women to come and go as they please, and to see new babies and to see 2-year-olds, right? They're all different ages that are coming to that support group. We have a miscarriage infant loss mentoring program where we will pair mothers who have walked that journey and then pair them up one-to-one. We're starting a support group for that as well. We do other things within the community. We have a no matter how small event where we honor those babies who have been lost. And we have a family comfort station that I think that idea was born at Siouxland, Guiding Star Siouxland. So we go out into the community for during festivals and those kinds of big events that are happening. And we provide a place for a mom to nurse or to breastfeed or even to pump and to change a diaper. And that's not just for moms. I saw one dad come through with 3 or 4 of his kids one day. So they love being able to have a cool space to just be able to sit down, have a snack, have a cold water, to do those things. And then we also get to talk to them about Guiding Star. We did a family fun fest where we offered car seat safety checks and just some activities. We had some partners that showed up, face painting. Susan, who is our lactation specialist, she also does face painting too. She's multi-talented, an amazing woman. That we just actually reach out to the community and like invite them in and to kind of bring them into our space and show them what we are. And I think that that's the hardest part that I would say about Guiding Star is after being in retail for so long, it's like you sell a product, right? You sell a sandwich or makeup or all these things that I've done in my past. So that's what I can catering. You sell an event. Um, it's not tangible what we do at Guiding Star.
Okay. Oh my
We
gosh.
can't.
I want to dig into this just a little bit because I think you articulate it really well. We recently had a conversation where I asked you I asked you a couple of things and you came back with the response that you think we are pioneers.
Mm.
And so if you had to explain what Guiding Star is, you know, in a collective, Guiding Star Cedar Valley, of course, specifically, but our collective of centers, it is intangible. In your own words, how would you describe what we do at Guiding Star Centers?
We are pioneers. What Leah Jacobson dreamt up, what she saw, what inspired Jamie and motivated Jamie is we are pioneers in the way that we're taking care of women and men and children, right? In the services that we provide, because it goes, I think, against what traditional Western medicine has been doing for so long. I think the crazy thing is that we're pioneers with information that is ages old, that is old as we have been, you know, since the beginning of time. The things that we're teaching women and men about their bodies is something that we were born with, we were created with, and we are enlightening people with the way that their bodies work, like naturally work. And the more that I learn about that, it's just like we're pioneers with age old information. You know, this is nothing new. It's just that people don't know, they haven't been told. And I think that that's where my eyes are just like, oh my goodness, we should tell everybody this. We should tell everyone that your colostrum, when a baby is born, smells like amniotic fluid, and that's why the baby goes searching for the nipple, right? And sometimes I go a little too far, and my team will be like, I don't know if the world's ready to hear it exactly that way. And I'm like, but they should be, right? We should just be bold about this. I watched a small portion of the film Microbirth, which is something that Susan brought. And forgive me if I say this wrong, but in your vaginal canal, you develop a bacteria the last couple of weeks before you give birth. And when the baby passes through the vaginal canal at birth, they ingest this bacteria to help build their gut microbiome. I'm like, just think about the way that we were designed. That really, like, those kinds of things should just blow us away. And it's like, why is that information not readily available? We should know all of these things, right? Our bodies were designed and created to do so many crazy things, and we have, to some degree, repressed all of that. We've repressed the information, we've repressed the way that our bodies should, like our bodies, when my daughter was pregnant and she would talk about, she's an active person. And she's like, wow, I'm just really tired. I'm like, because you're growing another body inside of your own body. Like, if you just stop and sit with that, how incredible is that? How incredible is that you get to sustain a life inside of you while you're living your own life too? We should, that's where, like, what I see from Guiding Star is we honor women so well. And we honor how beautiful our bodies were created and all of the things that we do. And I think that for a large part of my life, at least for me personally, I did not honor my body. I did not honor the gift of motherhood, the gift of being a woman. Um, And I would love for Guiding Star to just set the world on fire for women to understand that about themselves, right? We are so beautifully and wonderfully made, and we should just embrace that in the most powerful way, because that we talk about superpowers, during Intro to Womanhood, but I mean, we are super women, so incredibly capable and strong and made so good. And our world has been like, I feel like the world tells us, no, you need to do this, this, and this, and this. And it's like, no, we don't. We're good exactly the way we are.
Mm. Set the world ablaze, Amy Dall. That's music to my ears. And this is why we there's many different ways that you can set the world ablaze, right? People can set the world ablaze, of course, in little corners of the United States. And that's completely fine. And we have so many people who are doing great things in the world of women's health and pregnancy resource centers and making choices for life. There's incredible movements across the United States and beyond, of course. But what I love about Leah's original vision and what I know unites all of our executive directors is this concept, this notion of a national movement. Imagine this unified force lighting this way into a culture of life. And that's what gets me so motivated. The same way, it's interesting to use this analogy of pioneers, right?
Uh-huh.
With pioneers, there was strength in numbers. You traveled in your little caravan of, you circled the wagons together when things needed to be protected. People helped each other immensely, obviously, once you set up and started tilling your own soil and all that. And I see here at Guiding Star is that there is, especially right now in this particular moment in Guiding Star's history, I've witnessed this real linking of arms of our executive directors, the collaboration on our curriculums. We're creating a unified curriculum that'll be used at all of our centers, and just this real sisterhood, like truly of support and encouragement. I think the work that we do, anytime that you are revealing something true and good that other voices may not want brought to light, you're going to have some setbacks, you're going to have discouragement. And that's my favorite thing, if I may, and one of my favorite things I think of you, connecting with you. You are such a natural encourager. I mean, I think it's a gift that you've been given, your ability to encourage, your ability to speak truth into people. And that's another, I think, one of my favorite things about Guiding Star, this real connection of individuals all going towards one similar goal and a similar path. Okay, I want to ask you, what is your favorite thing of being a director in Guiding Star?
Oh, wow. I think the most fulfilling thing that I see as an executive director is to see that we make change in our relationships with other people, but just all of the ways that we are helping people as they come through. I don't even know. I hope I can verbalize this well. We're just able to see people as individuals. We're all so uniquely different. I mean, I think that was apparent to me when I was traveling through the airport and I sat there, and I'm a people watcher. And I just saw all these people and we all look so different. Like, how is that even possible? That we're all so designed and all these little details are so different about each one of us, right? And I think that that's what I love about Guiding Star is that we know our strengths and we know our weaknesses, right? And we have our shortcomings, and it's not easy on a day-to-day basis. But you get to respond in so many different ways to so many different people. And that is all at once just like it's so beautiful and fulfilling, but it's so hard and so challenging all at the same time. And I think that that's when I sit in the seat and I look at the way that all of our women that we work with and how they just interact with everybody in the most beautiful way that is beautifully intimate for those two people at that time.
Mm.
And it's like, how do we, like, how does that happen? How do we have that knowledge and that wisdom and that understanding? And I think it's because we have hearts wide open, right? We just have hearts wide open for people. And I mean, like, I just want to give a shout out to my team, right? We have Grace, who's been with us for 7 years, and I just, she sees you in just a way that just kind of pierces you, but loves you all at the same time, right? And her ability and her artistic creativity that comes through for our center is just amazing. We have Danielle, who's like, she has the biggest heart of anybody I know. I think she would probably lay down in front of a semi for somebody, right? Like, she's just so generous. It's crazy to me how much she loves people. Like, she would pour out her life for a person. Susan, who comes to us with so many years of experience. And I'm just like, I think three people may be able to soak up all the wisdom and experience that that woman has and can impart. She can just see a situation, especially in breastfeeding, and know the answer. And I'm just like, it's incredible. We have Carla, who comes to us with accounting, and she keeps us like on the straight and narrow, right? She helps us and guides us that way. And she does it with such a way to love people that, I mean, like, our team is just crazy. Our natural family planning team, the way that they educate and they love people and their passion and desire. Julie and Mandy, they have such a passion for that information. And it's a lot. I don't even know the Creighton model of family planning. And it's just like, it's, to me, I'm like, wow, that's a science that I mean, I'm also at a place in my life where that's not a necessary thing for me. But if I was younger, I would desire that very, very much because I just see the beauty in that. Maddie, who does our community classes and FEM training, and she has a young one now, and it's just so much fun to see her as a mother, and to see her and watch her as she's able to still navigate and do all the things that she needs to do, with her job. And I'm probably forgetting somebody. We have Noelle, who has come back to us, and she's come back to be Child Watch. You know, she'd been part of the organization for a long time and came back to be part of that. We have Jenna, who started, and she's taking Grace's role. So these ladies get to spend time together. She's fresh out of college with a degree in nonprofit leadership. And I'm like, just the way that God has assembled our team, I think, and just has done it so well. We have volunteers and we have educators. Katie comes and she just educates for intro to womanhood, right? So I look at that and I see the way that Guiding Star Project, I mean, like you and Leah and Lisa Stry, and the way that you guys have come together. And then I think about all of our affiliates and how you said we uniquely do things differently, but we do what's right for our community and our space. And I pray that that can all be multiplied, right? In leaps and bounds, that we are able to multiply what we're doing in leaps and bounds.
Amen. I mean, our goal is by 2032, we're 50 centers strong. So, oh my goodness, Amy Dall, I could talk to you all day, but my goodness, this has been such an encouraging conversation. Is there anything else you wanted to mention that you didn't get a chance to mention today?
I think just a gratitude for the people that make up Guiding Star, the project, our affiliates, but also for our volunteers, right? We have some really passionate volunteers. And our partners, we have those partners in our communities that support us. Dr. Pranger, he just has a heart for the mission, right? And we need more men. We need more men in our mission to be able to step up and to really come together with us as well. And I think sometimes, not that we do it intentionally, but I think sometimes men get left out of the equation a little bit, and we need them to come forward and to help us fight this fight, because it's a fight. I said that we don't stand on a street corner with a sign fighting for a culture of life. What we do is we love people. We fight from a place of loving them. And that's the best way to fight. That's the best way. And then just the people that support us monetarily and prayerfully. We could
Yes.
not do it without them. Like we all have a part in this mission, each of us, and they're all important.
100%. You have an incredible board as well. I've gotten to know many of the members of the
Yes.
board, and they're doing such good work. I am so grateful for you just on a personal level, as well as
Oh,
what
thank
you
you.
do for this organization, the leadership that you give at Guiding Star Cedar Valley. If you are listening to this and you are in the Waterloo, Iowa area, and you love this approach, this idea of healthcare where you are seen, where you are heard, and where you are genuinely loved, I want to encourage you to go check out Guiding Star Cedar Valley at guidingstarscedarvalley.org, where you can learn all about the services that they provide. You can learn about family medicine as well. And if you want to donate to support them, you can do that on their website as well. Amy, you have a gala coming up October 5. Is that right?
Yes. Yes, we do. And here's the crazy thing. It wasn't the date that we necessarily wanted, but we settled for it. And then we're like, well, who would we like to have come speak? Jamie Rathjen is coming back. Yes, the original founder. She's coming back to speak, and it is her 40th birthday that day.
Oh,
So yeah, we're very very excited. If you can make it to the gala, that would be great. Check out our website. You can email me at amy@guidingstarcedarvalley.org. We will get you the information. But yeah, we're so excited. And I will just put in a little plug. Jamie and I were talking, and she said this was kind of a concept that they had formulated before. She's like, what does it look like for a woman to walk with Guiding Star Cedar Valley throughout their life? And what does it look like for a woman to not have Guiding Star Cedar Valley throughout their life? And so I think she's really just going to touch on that. And said, I can actually attest to that because I think about all the ways that Guiding Star would have been helpful for me throughout my lifetime. And so I'm super excited for that and to listen to Jamie. And I just think her 40th birthday, it's going to be a great celebration too.
ooh la la. All righty. Well, thank you so much again, Amy Dall. So great to spend some time with you. And everybody, thank you for listening and watching. We'll see you next time on the Fearless Future podcast.